We've had a weekend to reflect since the transfer window closed, but who won the window? Here is my grading for every Championship club's business. We'll keep it simple and I'll go for a 5-star grading. The better the window, the more the stars. What makes a window good or bad? Well, the quality of a club's squad, either increasing or decreasing as a result of business, and whether fees paid or received look good or bad value. Now remember, this is completely subjective opinion. I'm allowed mine and you're allowed yours. The transfer window takes place off the pitch as well. So wrap your head around the possibility that a club could have a good window and then perform poorly, or have a bad window but still produce on the pitch. We're going to go in alphabetical order, and don't worry, I'll stick chapters in below for those of you who only ever want to hear about your own club. Birmingham City, 5 stars. What a nice positive start. Birmingham's new owners have frankly ticked all my boxes with their first window. Funds in nice and early for Chong and Bellingham. Every different profile of signing has come into the building and plenty of championship ready faces. Dembele and Stansfield look like they could be game changers. You wouldn't want this much movement every window, but within the context of it being a new start, totally works for me. Blackburn Rovers, 2 stars. Now, I've got a bit of a black mark about Blackburn, mainly due to letting Ben Brereton Diaz's contract run all the way down and go for nothing, as well as losing Ash Phillips before they could truly develop him. A very European look to the incomings, as well as a couple of Premier League loans. Rovers fans will hope the new guys are going to acclimatise nicely under Thomason, and then we can look back on this as a good window. I'm not feeling that way right now though. Bristol City, 2 stars. I've seen plenty of frustration from City fans that they did the hard work with Alex Scott in bringing him through and selling on, and then not reinvesting a great deal of the fee back into their first team. That could change down the line, obviously, but the sell and replenish model hasn't quite been applied yet. Historical, I know, but it's also going to smart for those Robins fans to see Callas and Masengo go this window for free, given big fees there. Dickey and Knight, though, feel proven incomings at Championship level. Cardiff City, 4 stars. Cardiff are still embargoed and therefore not allowed to spend any fees. Obviously, that's on them, but I do feel I have to come from some kind of position of admiration, given how much trickier that makes things for the Bluebirds. They don't feel weakened massively in terms of outs. Bowler, Grant and Maite have Championship pedigree, and having seen his start, the return of Aaron Ramsey feels much more than just some kind of feel-good PR stunt. Coventry City, 5 stars. I have to back this Coventry window, as in the parachute payments era, this should give great hope to potential challengers to the wealthier relegated teams. Hamer and Gyökeres out for huge money and huge profit, and like Brentford did so brilliantly, Coventry are now trading up and have taken 6 multi-million-pound signings at a good age to try and keep things building. If they've picked well, we can look back and this might look like a very significant window in their Championship growth. Huddersfield Town, 1 star. Okay, so my position is that fans are partisan and overly optimistic about transfers. Not when absolutely nothing happens though, and the Terriers fans I've spoken to have not been positive at all. Very bad smell about this Huddersfield window. Barely anything done in terms of incomings, and manager Neil Warnock, in his none too subtle way, getting the message out that he hasn't really been backed at all by the new owners. Hull City, 4 stars. Feels a bit like Hull have rolled the dice here, doesn't it? Nothing massive out weakening them, and big strengthening, particularly up top with Philogene and Connolly permanent. Twine and Delap on loan, some quality there. Mr. Ilichali did seem a bit scattergun for the first couple of his transfer windows as owners, but this looks far more sensible, doesn't it? The only thing stopping me giving it 5 stars is the kind of gamble factor, but we all know if the gamble pays off, the end very much justifies the means. Ipswich Town, 3 stars. Fairly careful, quiet window for Ipswich, who'd gotten used really to being the big spenders in League One. Lots of trust in the team that got Town promoted, with Hurst going from loan to permanent, Jack Taylor being slowly broken in as we speak. 3 potentially high calibre Premier League loans in. My sense from the fan base is that one more permanent would have been preferred, but if the market wasn't right, then considered tweaking could actually turn out to be the right thing in the long term. Leeds United, 2 stars. Now, don't get cross Leeds fans, but I've got to downgrade Leeds purely on the previous regime, tying the new one up in knots with some absurd looking loan release clauses that have stopped money coming in for players who frankly didn't want to be there. Under the circumstances, Leeds have actually done really well with Pirou, Ampadu, Gruev and Kamara on permanent, Spence, Roden, Anthony on loan. Leeds do still look very powerful, but this was surely far, far more difficult than it needed to be. Leicester City, 4 stars. Now, Leeds would probably have liked to have done exactly what Leicester did and bank over £100 million in player sales from that relegated squad. 5 stars for bringing in cash for Leicester. In terms of the income, and it does look a bit high risk, high reward on the basis of age, profile and spend. But of course, if Leicester do get themselves promoted at the first time of asking, then it's fair game. If they don't, then this window will very much more come into question. Middlesbrough, 2 stars. I said this is an off-pitch discussion, but it's hard not to be influenced by Borough's horrible start on the pitch, and so much of that seems to be due to a perceived downgrade on players who have left the club. Akpom, Archer, Ramsey, Giles, Stefan, here I go again, all no longer there, and only Akpom was owned by Borough, so fees back does not add up to quality lost. We'll see how Latte Lath goes, and O'Brien looks a no-brainer. Perhaps those two could salvage things somewhat. Millwall, 4 stars. On the one hand, for Millwall, no big money coming in here. On the other, no big stars, leaving a team that didn't miss the playoffs by very much last season. The other direction, nice fees played for Dinor, Nisbet and Sarkic. Brian looks smart on a free, as does Norton Cuffy and Campbell on loan. They've strengthened very gradually and methodically at the Den. Just need to build a few high-value stars alongside Zian Fleming. Norwich City, 3 stars. Norwich was said to be lacking experience and leadership, and they've added a ton of that with 8 players aged 27 or over coming in. Big money arriving for Omobamidele, Aarons and Rasica, although I still don't much like that Bali Mumba sale. End of an era with Pookie and Krull leaving. I guess given the reported financial position, they've done what they can. Just wondered whether 1 or 2 more incomings for fees would have been a bit more appropriate given the money arriving in. Plymouth Argyle, 4 stars. No big names out, no money in, but no disruption. The Argyle owners stepped up to get Lone Stars Mumba and Whittaker back permanently, as well as Finazaz back on loan. Bundu looks an interesting one from Belgium. Are Plymouth better or as good as last year? Well, they got 100 points, didn't they? So they might just need to be as good. And when Michael Cooper returns from injury, they can continue to build what will probably be a very high value asset as well. Preston North End, 4 stars. Again, try and detach yourself from the fact that Preston are top of the table, hard as that seemed after 5 games. Dan Johnson out was a bit of an end of era one. So far though, Dwayne Holmes and Will Keane look super smart deals, but are they going to continue to perform at the rate they've started? The really interesting ones are Frokja Jensen and Osmajic coming in. Feels like Preston haven't built and sold stars well enough over the last few years, so fairly optimistic at least one of these two could change that. QPR, 1 star. Assets, Seni Dieng and Rob Dickey out. They do still have Chair and Willock on the books, although Willock has gone well off the boil lately. Incoming, the other direction, it feels fairly cheap and fairly short term. Don't get me wrong, Colback, Begovic and Cook, amazing careers, but just doesn't feel like it has any long-term or sell-on value in my humble opinion. Ainsworth seems to be doing well with what he's got, but it's going to be rabbits out of hats in the long term if trading continues this way for too long. Rotherham United, 3 stars. Always admire how the Millers operate so sensibly financially, but not getting a fee for Ogbene isn't great, and seeing Wiles and Harding both heading to fellow Championship competitors may smart a little. What is great is that Rotherham have felt comfortable enough to break their transfer record twice this summer for Nombe and Tayi, alongside plenty of frees and loans. It's just a shame it couldn't have all been paid for by a big fee, probably a deserved fee, for Ogbene. Sheffield Wednesday, 2 stars. Slow going at Wednesday, wasn't it? Barely anyone in that door for the season opener against Southampton. In fairness to Mr. Chansiri, I think it's 12 players in when the window finally shut. But the old head of recruitment went out in June. New manager came in, obviously, so I'm not sure about any long-term thinking there. Maybe a bit of a sense of just get some bodies in, but a couple of interesting young lads from the French market. I hate to say it though, but where Mr. Chansiri goes, chaos tends to follow. Southampton, 3 stars. An insane amount of cash went into Southampton for Lavia, Livramento, Ward-Prowse, Teller and others. That is, of course, to be applauded. Have they blown my mind with incomings the other way? Not massively. Lots on Shea Charles, an expensive youngster. Ross Stewart, heavily proven, of course, but arrives injured. Otherwise, frees and loans suggest that they think there's enough quality already there to go straight back up. If it works, that's all well and good, but much more will need doing when they do get back to the Premier League. If it doesn't work, heads will probably roll. Stoke, 4 stars. The Potters have reset in FFP terms and really gone for it in the market. Brown and Timon brought in some cash to work with. 13 permanents and 5 loans incoming, although Chiquinho has already been sent back from his loan. Don't know who he upset. As you can imagine, every type of profile has come in. High value loanee, proven Championship players and young Euro stars to try and build value in. Does feel a little bit scattergun, but if they can take the best bits and build a team out of all these players, trim it up down the line, could get them off in the right direction after a very poor few years. Sunderland, 3 stars. Weird old window at Sunderland. Started really optimistically. They went early with some typical on-brand young sort of European talent coming in. As we came up to deadline day, it was proper looking like it was going to go into meltdown mode with the idea that all the good players were going to be sold. In the end, Stewart, Bart and Gooch went. More importantly though, Clark and Roberts didn't. As it ends up, we're probably somewhere in the middle, aren't we? And as much as I like all these European youngsters being brought in to develop, they do need to keep the experienced heads around them in order to do that. Swansea, 2 stars. Swansea sold the main man, Joel Pirro. Fair play for developing him and getting a really good fee. Bit of a clear out actually below him too. Obafemi, Bender, Whittaker, Manning, Latabodier and Ncham all off from the club. I like Jerry Yates very much. Nice to see Key step up from League One. And Europe has been scoured for a couple of younger names too. Still can't shake that feeling though that it's a law of diminishing returns with that Swans ownership. They always seem to sell and then not totally commit to reinvesting it back. Watford, 1 star. Watford didn't bounce back first time this time and go into year 2 of their parachute payments by selling João Pedro and Ismail Assar to fill the coffers and presumably cut a bit back on the wages. Rajovic, 2 goals on his first start, great, but otherwise very, very little in the way for Hornets fans to get excited about other than a couple of loans and frees. Underwhelming, I'd say, from the Pozzos, whose recruitment was probably one of the few good parts of their not so good reputation. West Brom, 1 star. Now, we all know about the money troubles at West Brom, and this window really reflects that, doesn't it? Parachute payments done. Dara O'Shea sold to bring in some much-needed income. Carlin Grant and Taylor Gardner-Hickman loaned out to fellow Championship teams. Other than that, a couple of loans and a free coming in. Sarmiento might be really good, another one of these Brighton squad players. Nothing we didn't know, but this is not a sustainable approach for window after window if West Brom do want to progress. There you go, that is my grading for every club's summer transfer business. Get involved down there in the comments. Let me know who you think won the window. If, like me, you actually chat to fans of clubs you don't support, you'll know that their views on transfers can be highly partisan and therefore extremely optimistic. Obviously, I'd love every transfer the club you support has made this window to work out absolutely brilliantly and become a huge star, score loads of goals, but let's be honest, some are probably not going to, however much you hope they will. I will respect your right to an opinion so long as you respect mine. Speaking of opinions, that's what this channel is all about. So why not click here and you can give me yours on the latest weekend of Championship action in the Round 5 Hot Takes video.